Hi everyone, this is Rado, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use and manipulate the repeater field in Ultimate Fields. I'm going to start by creating a new container called repeaters, which appears as an options page in the main menu of the dashboard. I'm going to add a single field here called basic repeater, as I'm going to show you a few more later, and set the type of this field to repeater. In here we can add groups with names. In this case I'm going to call the group person, and add a single field in there called first name. I'm going to save this before I take a look at the page and see that here we've got this new field with that entry button. What can we do with this? We can click that entry button and this will show us this new box. This box is called a repeater group, and it has some controls, it has a title, and in this case it has some nested fields. To a single repeater field, we can add multiple groups and enter different data in all of them. In this case, I'm going to create a couple of groups and enter Jane and John for the first name. As you can already see, we have different data, but what else can we do with those groups? The first thing, as you already saw, is to add a group. Then we can also remove a group. We can clone the existing group, delete that, and we can also collapse groups. Collapsing groups allows you to focus on the data that you're editing now and to hide groups that you have already finished. This way, your workspace in the admin will be a bit less cluttered, and you will be able to have a better overview of what's happening. This state is saved, so once you update the options page, Ultimate Fields will remember your preference, and once you come back, you'll see it exactly the way you left it. So, let's expand this group, save, and go back to the container. Here I'm going to add one more field to this repeater group. In order to do so, I'm going to make the first name only occupy 50% of the width and add a second field called last name. I'm going to set the field width to 50%, add it, save, and save. When we come back to the page, you already see that we have the same groups of data, but we also have the new last name field in place. I'm going to enter the same family name for both of those persons. Saving it, of course, everything is in place. Coming back, I want to show you what happens when you make a field required. I'm going to make both the first name and last name fields required. And I'm going to even show you something else, which I'm going to explain in a moment. Going back to the page, everything looks pretty much the same except of the fact that we've got those stars now. What I want to show you is how validation works in repeater fields. I'm going to enter myself without a last name, and I'm going to even create a new person, which will be collapsed. Now I'm going to try to save the group, and as you can see, we get immediate feedback of what's happening. Here we can see that I need a last name for myself, so I'm going to just enter it. And we also see that we've got some issues with the data that is in this group. Expanding the group, we can see the messages. What you see here is how intuitively Ultimate Fields shows you where you've got errors with your data. I'm going to save it and now show you the next option, which is full screen pop-up mode for those groups. If I add a new one, here you see this button. If I click it, I get to the full screen editing mode. Here I can try to save the group and I get immediate validation messages even though I'm not trying to save the complete page. But the fields that you see here are exactly the same as those. If we come back to the container, you can see that I can make the edit mode just pop up. This way, if you have too many fields, people will not have to see them inline on the page, but will only be able to click the edit button and see what's happening in the pop-up. Next, I want to go back to the container, and here I'm going to add a new field. It will be called content blocks. It will be again a repeater field, and here I'm going to add two groups. The first one is going to be called text, containing a title and a text field, as well as another group which will be called image and will contain a single field also called image. Once this is saved, we can go to the repeaters page, and here you can see how the repeater field looks when you have more than a single group. So here, instead of that entry button, we actually have a single button for every group type. To add content to the repeater, you can either just click some of the existing groups, or you can drag one and place it wherever you prefer to. You can add it to the beginning, to the end. I'm just going to put it here in the first place. I'm going to add also some content. So let's select an image and fill the text block. Hello world. And yes, you can see that all of this remains the same way. You can still rearrange groups and place them the way you want to. It's important to know that the repeater field supports all sorts of nested fields. Here I'm going to add a new tab, which would be called content. I'm going to select an icon for it, and also add a new tab called appearance with a specific icon and containing a layout field, which would be select, where we can select big or small for the layout, this particular block. Saving this and going back to the page, you can already see that we've got the two separate tabs and we can manage what is happening. Next, I want to focus on the ability to customize a group. If you go back to the basic repeater, you can see that there is a lot you can customize about a specific group. I want to start by using the last setting, which is called title template. Here you can enter an _GS template, which describes how the title bar of the groups should look, or more specifically, what it should contain. I'm going to enter first name and last name. Those are the names of the fields, and here I'm following the templating language structure, so I'm using this structure to actually output a value. Saving this, going back to the page, you can see that here we can see the full name of that person within the title bar. So even when the group is collapsed, we know what we're editing. The next thing I want to show you, this time in the content blocks field, is that you can customize how a group should look. By default, repeater groups use the grid layout, but we can switch to rows. We can also select a border color in case we want to highlight a group. Let's make this one yellow. We can select a different background for the title bar. This one I'm going to make blue, and I'm going to make the color here white. This is for the text. Saving this, going back to the page, you can see that only the text group has this yellow border highlighting all blocks from that group, and also it has a specific title bar color. This way you can really know what you're editing in case you have some sort of an alert group or something that is a bit more special. Let's reset those settings and take a look at the errors. So I'm going to use the defaults here. And I want to show you that you can also select an icon for all groups. In this case, for the text group, I'm going to just select this paragraph icon. I'm going to save the block. And here you can see that we have specific icons. Even when the group is collapsed, you can see what it is about. We can do something else, which is to select a new background for the whole repeater field. In this case, I'm going to select something that's a bit more contrasty. So just some gray. And if you go back to the page, here you can see how noticeable and obvious it is which group is which one, and the content doesn't get merged visually. The last thing that we can do here is to select the drop-down chooser type. By default, the repeater uses widgets when you have more than one group, but this can get a bit overwhelming when you have a lot of group types added to the same field. That's why there is also the option to use the select field, where you can select what type of group you want to add and click the Add Entry button. If you want to add a new text group, click the button. If you want to add a group from a different type, in this case image, you just change to image and you already see the group, and you can manage it the way you want to. I would recommend that in order to try this by yourself, even before purchasing Ultimate Fields, you go to the website and you request a demo for yourself. This way you can click around and see what options are available for the repeater field. Thank you for watching this video and see you in another one.